Welcome once again, my fellow manipulators of digital fate. I'm Richie, this is Capricorn, and over the past weekend we saw MagicCon Vegas in full swing, which is appropriate because it came out swinging with some crazy new set teasers, some new spoiler cards for the next couple of sets coming. Now, we already did a video covering all of the Edge of Eternity spoilers and info that was unveiled at MagicCon Vegas, so if you're interested in the very next Magic set that's coming out, which is the last in Magic IP set of the year, that's a Universes Within and not a Universes Beyond, I'm going to make sure to link that video in the description and the comments down below, so definitely check that out. There's some crazy stuff coming in that set. It is a sci-fi, sci-fantasy, sort of space opera kind of set. It's supposed to be in the vein of something like a Star Wars, and the stuff that was spoiled for that is already looking insane, so definitely check that video out. But this video in particular is about another set that they gave us the very first spoiler for, and this is the last set that's coming at the end of this year, and that's Avatar: The Last Airbender. This set is another Universes Beyond set, so it's not using the Magic the Gathering IP, it is using the Avatar: The Last Airbender IP, and from what I can gather, it's going to mainly focus on the first 3 seasons of the Nickelodeon cartoon. I'm sure they'll have a bunch of cards that are still focusing on some of the spin-off content and some of the extra characters. It's an entire standard legal set, so they're going to have a lot of cards to fill. But for the most part, from what I can gather, it's going to mainly focus on the first 3 seasons of that Nickelodeon cartoon, which is pretty interesting. And let's move on here and take a look at the release date, November 21st. Bend the battlefield with Magic cards from Avatar: The Last Airbender, master the elements, and join your favorite characters for new adventures, iconic art, and elemental showdown like never before. So it is pretty exciting stuff. August 12th is going to mark the debut, so we're going to get our first full batch of spoilers that really kind of hone in on all of the mechanics that we can expect and that sort of thing. But the actual official spoiler season, where they're going to give us spoiler cards every single day until the final full set is spoiled, that's not going to start until October. But August 12th, we will get a batch of cards. We will learn a lot more about the mechanics. Right now, we just have one card, and they're teasing the hell out of us. So we're going to go ahead and check that out. Avatar Aang. Now, you can immediately see by the up arrow in the top left next to the name that this is a flip card, right? Something is on the back, which makes sense thematically for what this card is. A 4/4 legendary human avatar ally, which is already kind of an interesting quirk. We see allies coming back. To what extent is ally going to matter? Is it going to be one of the mechanics in the set? Hard to say. But allies have been a mechanic in Magic's past, so it'll be really interesting to see if that comes back in any meaningful way. But Avatar Aang himself, a 4/4 legendary for 4 mana, red, green, white, and blue. It's worth pointing out that at different points in the story, Aang himself has different sort of elements that he's able to bend, and that he's sort of is sort of a part of his character. So I think when he starts out, we're gonna get a version that's just white. You know, he's the last airbender, and I think you're gonna get multiple iterations of Aang culminating in this mythic version of Aang. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw like a lesser rarity mono white Aang, and then we saw like an Azorius white and blue Aang, you know, to show that he's being able to bend another element. And then maybe Bant, white, blue, and green, to show that he's able to bend all of the elements except fire. And then culminating in this Avatar Aang, all 4 of those colors that are associated with all 4 of the elemental bending from the IP. I think that would make a lot of sense. 4 versions of Aang at 4 different rarities, most likely, or maybe 3 different rarities. But either way, I think it's an interesting card here. Let's look at what it does. Flying, Firebending 2. We don't know what Firebending is yet, but let's move on. Whenever you Waterbend, Earthbend, Firebend, or Airbend, you draw a card, and then if you've done all 4 this turn, you transform Avatar Aang. So before we get to what's on the back, I just want to point out how interesting this seems. We have no idea what firebending, waterbending, earthbending, and airbending looks like in this set. We don't know mechanically exactly what that means. We know that it is a keyword. We can see it here, firebending 2. We know that there is a scalability to it because it has the number there. My guess is that you somehow trigger firebending, and the 2 could have to do with how you trigger it. Maybe it's when you cast 2 red spells, a firebending 2 then triggers. Or maybe when you attack with something with firebending 2, you reduce the costs of your cards by 2 red mana. Something like that. We don't really know exactly how it's going to work, but it's definitely going to be some kind of a trigger, and it's important enough to have a keyword here. It's also worth pointing out that Avatar Aang in particular draws a card whenever you bend any one of the 4 elements, so I don't think the base ability of bending is going to have anything to do with like card draw or anything like that, because this just seems like an extra special thing that happens for Aang when you do the bending. But the bending could really be any number of things. It could be casting spells of the appropriate color. It could be, you know, looking at the top however many cards of your deck for whatever the number is, in this case 2, and if you find a red card, you're able to play it. There's really no way to know exactly what direction they're going, but like I said, there are some hints in the way that this is formatted, the fact that it's scalable, it has the number 2 there, that there's 1 for each element, and it's definitely something that triggers. But let's look at the backside now, and maybe we can get some more hints. When it flips, it becomes Aang, Master of Elements, a 6/6 legendary avatar ally. So again, we still have the ally creature type. Has flying, spells you cast cost WUBRG less to cast. Before we get to the last ability, that ability on its own is insane. You could cast a Niv Mizzet, a 5-color Niv Mizzet, or a Jodah for free. And even if you don't use all of the mana, like say you have a Jund creature in your hand that costs 1 green, 1 red, 1 black, and 2, right? You only have to spend 2 colorless. You don't have to spend any of the colored mana to play it. So not only does it fix you, it literally turns all of your colored spells into colorless unless they have a double pip of a certain color, but it's also giving you insane cost reductions. So I am going to assume that, you know, being able to bend is maybe a little tricky to do. I don't think it's going to be super easy to bend all 4 elements in the same turn and get this to flip. It's going to be something that you're trying to shoot for in the mid to late game. But then the last ability here, at the beginning of each upkeep, you may transform Aang, Master of Elements. If you do, you gain 4 life, draw 4 cards, put 4 +1/+1 counters on him, and he deals 4 damage to each opponent. So pretty insane, right? You want to keep him flipped on his backside while you cast a bunch of spells, maybe storm off. It makes me wonder if maybe the bending mechanics are some kind of a new variation of storm that's like a fixed storm. Maybe you can just kind of like keep going if you're able to bend. It's kind of hard to say, but use all of that free mana, and you got to remember, you get a WUBRG for every single thing that you cast. It reduces every single thing you cast. So it's not like, you know, you can cast 1 Jund thing and then 1 Azorius thing and then you're out, right? Because you've gotten 1 of each. It's 1 of each for each thing you cast. So you can just keep chaining spells for insanely cheap as long as they have a high density of different colored mana symbols and not a lot of colorless mana. You can just keep jamming so many spells from your hand with this ability. So it should be pretty easy to just play out your whole board, and then on your next turn, when you hit your upkeep, transform him back to his front side. You draw 4, gain 4 life, put 4 counters on Aang, and deal 4 damage to each opponent. He turns back into Avatar Aang. He still has his flying. He's 4/4. He gets back his firebending, and he gets back the ability to draw a card whenever you bend for any element. So I think there's going to be some really interesting setups where you kind of go back and forth, but how many times do you really need to do that before you win the game? I just think the most curious thing about this is trying to figure out exactly how bending works. It's not going to be super complicated. I do think the final ability here on Master of Elements is a bit of a tease at that. you'll notice that every single thing that it triggers is in the number 4. So 4 life, 4 cards, and that represents the 4 elements that you can bend. But also it's 4 different abilities that trigger, and each one gets 4. So it's kind of like an exponential increase of value that you get off of the elements, thematically at least. So I don't know, the sky's the limit. There's so much that it could be, but I would love to hear what your thoughts are, what you guys think those abilities could be in the comments, and maybe how mechanically they might work. I'm really curious to see exactly what they do with the bending mechanics. But that's going to do it for today. Thank you guys so much for checking out the video. As soon as we get more spoilers for this set and beyond some of the sets in 2026, I will make sure to drop them right away for you guys. So if you haven't subscribed yet, definitely subscribe. If you're into Magic the Gathering, Wonders of the First, collectible card games in general, you are in the right place. Hit that subscribe button. Please like the video so you can help me get it out to people and help the channel grow. I appreciate that so much, and I will see you guys next time. I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, Wonders of the First. Wonders of the First is a brand new collectible card game similar to games like Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, featuring a unique action-based resource economy that helps avoid pitfalls like Mana Flood or Mana Screw, and a battlefield containing multiple realms that unlock over time as you fight for control of the stones. The first 400 card set is called Existence, and they've even partnered with Star City Games to host their competitive play tour at every single SCGCon event starting in August. The game contains alternate borderless art variants, as well as highly sought after limited edition numbered prints, culminating in a 1-of-1 stone foil. And the best part is that the developers have a community-first approach, with a card database and deck builder available via Cardio, as well as a version of the game available on Tabletop Simulator, all for free. For more information, be sure to check out wondersccg.com today. That's wondersccg.com. Thanks so much for checking out my channel. I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons over at Patreon. Without you guys, this channel would not be possible, so honestly, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your contributions. If you haven't yet, like and subscribe. The more likes we get and the quicker we get them, the bigger this channel will grow and the faster it will grow. I'd love nothing more than this channel to become something very special for you guys, but it's entirely up to you how fast that happens. Also, if you'd like more deck text, that's somewhere over there. And if you'd like to see what else the channel's been up to lately, that's somewhere up that way. Also, subscribe, circle below, do all the things.